the magical voice that gave us chills with I Will Always Love You, and Slade with How Will I Know. Now, Whitney Houston as you never saw her in life. Intimate.
There were times when I would look up to God and I'd go, why is this happening to me?
Raw.
Now, one thing, Paul Abdul ain't that girl is singing off-key on the record.
Real. The explosive new documentary Whitney, out July 6th, taking an unflinching look at the music icon's tumultuous life, including her drug addiction, with never-before-seen home movies and blunt, stunning revelations from her tight inner circle.
There were always a lot of secrets. When you don't resolve things and you don't deal with things, they never go away.
I'm wondering if there's something that's like a release.
I've been waiting to exhale for such a long time, you know.
Gary Houston, speaking exclusively with Nightline, along with wife Pat, Whitney's former manager and executive producer of the documentary. Perhaps the film's biggest revelation, Whitney was allegedly sexually molested as a child. Pat says Whitney never told her who abused her, but that she did talk about the alleged experience.
Did you know?
We talked about it, but it was referencing my daughter. You know, we would travel with work. We would argue about me leaving Rhea behind. And I never could understood why she was so adamant about her being on the road with us. And that's when she talked to me very briefly, you know, about her situation. And I understood at that point and just let it go.
I suspected that there was some kind of trauma in her childhood just because of the way she acted, the way she talked in some interviews about her childhood and about how she felt about children, how she wanted to protect children.
The children are our future. Teach.
Gary says he was also abused, and in the film, director Kevin McDonald says Gary named the abuser as his cousin, Dee Dee Warwick, sister of singer Dionne Warwick.
I was 8, 9 years old, and I was being fondled with, you know, from time to time. It was a situation I didn't understand. I knew it was abnormal.
Did you know that Whitney had been molested too?
I had no idea.
Whitney's longtime assistant, Mary Jones, says in the film Whitney told her it was Dee Dee Warwick who molested her.
She was never able to talk about it to her mother or to a professional who was trying to help her perhaps with her addiction. You know, she did a lot of therapy and that kind of thing, but she would never open up about this to anyone.
The film also revealing the shocking extent of the drug abuse by the chart-topping legend.
Her drug of choice was?
She used cocaine, and she drank.
The family's roots began on the mean streets of Newark, New Jersey. Gary says hard drugs were a part of his life from an early age.
I've been turned on to drugs at 10 years old, heroin, at 10 years old.
At 10 years old.
Yeah, and I did drugs with Whitney, you know, from time to time, but we were in a different room. I never did with her, me and her together, because it would kind of separate us and distance us.
Recreational use of drugs, part of the rock and roll lifestyle, eventually trapped Whitney in a vice, something she didn't seem quite able to admit when talking with ABC News' Diane Sawyer.
Do you think of yourself as an addict?
I don't like to think of myself addicted. I like to think of I had a bad habit.
But the effects of her bad habit would be on full display at the 2001 Michael Jackson tribute on CBS.
She was just very thin, and I was just very, very concerned.
That was when you knew that she was in deep trouble.
I knew that she was in deep trouble.
What did you feel for your sister when you saw what the rest of the world saw?
I said, wow, you know, this really has gone overboard, and it's really taken the best and moved into a place where it'd be hard for her to get back to her center.
Whitney was defensive about the performance.
I'm not sick, Diane. I am not sick. Let's get that straight. I'm not sick, okay? I've always been a thin girl.
But that's not just thin.
No, what is it? Diane, tell me. Do you know?
It's scary thin.
I can believe what you feel. I can believe that. But do you really know? Do you really know?
It's maybe the only interview she gave in her whole life where you feel she's totally present and she's really meaning everything that she's saying, and she's trying to be honest.
Her drug use may have had the greatest impact on her daughter, Bobby Christina. Those closest to Whitney says as a mom, she often came up short.
What was she most disappointed about?
Well, she could have been a better mother.
And mommy loves you, girl.
They did have tender moments, like this one from the documentary when Bobby Christina was just 4.
Don't worry, you shoot.
Shuffled between life on tour with her famous parents and often staying back with family and friends for long stretches, Bobby Christina would never know a normal childhood.
Ultimately, Whitney and Bobby made the decisions, for their kid. There's only so much that anyone else can do.
Would you ever have fathomed that you would lose Whitney and then 3 years later lose Bobby Christina?
It was really, really difficult. I always said if she were 17 years old, we could have gotten her, and put her in our home, to be with us, but she was 18.
Like her mother, 22-year-old Bobby Christina would be found face down in a bathtub and later died. The singer also had a complicated relationship with Mom Sissy, a famous gospel singer who groomed her daughter from an early age.
God laid his hands on you.
In one intimate moment, we see their love and closeness.
Everywhere you go, that's right.
Whitney never forgot who to call on when she needed them. She would always address, I need my mother. So when the chips were down, oh yeah, she called for her mom.
One of Whitney's closest confidants was creative director Robin Crawford, a woman her family wanted Whitney to avoid at all costs.
What was her relationship with Robin?
And what I saw in Whitney and Robin were two best friends.
Mom Sissy addressed the friendship with Oprah.
Do you believe that Whitney and Robin were in a gay relationship?
I don't really know.
Would it have bothered you if your daughter, Whitney, was gay?
Absolutely.
I got a chance to speak to my sister about her before it even got to where the friendship even turned into what it turned into. I've never seen them, in any kind of intimacy kind of situation, but I knew that it was heading somewhere that I didn't really want it.
The one person she would publicly commit to and go on to marry was, of course, Bobby Brown. The documentary showing the passion and dysfunction of their marriage up close.
When you got people in the media talking about Mr. Houston instead of Mr. Brown, instead of saying like I say, he let it get to him.
Can I just ask you real quick, Miss Houston?
Mrs. Brown, man.
Mrs. Houston Brown?
Yes, darling.
But no one, it seems, could save Whitney from her demons as she went in and out of rehab.
Do you think she was happy?
I thought happiness did exist around her.
This haunting conversation with Diane Sawyer taking on a deeper meaning after Whitney's tragic death.
If you had to name the devil for you, the biggest devil among them?
That would be me. So the biggest devil is me. I'm either my best friend or my worst enemy. And that's how I have to deal with it.
10 years from now,
Yeah.
give me the perfect life for Whitney Houston.
Retired, sitting, looking at my daughter grow up, become a great woman of God, grandchildren.
But 10 years later, the night before the Grammys, Whitney would be found dead in her Beverly Hills hotel room, face down in a water-filled bathtub with drug paraphernalia nearby.
We did what we could, but ultimately it was Whitney that needed to decide if she wanted to live or die.
How much do you miss her?
Yeah, tremendously. I miss my sister, and I think she's in a better place.
For Nightline, I'm Deborah Roberts in New York.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.